Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin. Alan Ruff and Neil Murray are with me here today. Thank you very much for joining us on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button and don't forget to hit the bell and you'll get all the notifications of our unique video content. And thank you very much to each and every one of you for supporting us. The figures over the year are in and we're absolutely delighted. We've had 20 million views of our content on our YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. It's been absolutely superb. Great work from the team and all down to you supporting us, so we're absolutely delighted. And if you want to view other content other than the football show, it's all there for you to enjoy. Thank you very much also for people who drop us messages, not only on the live feed but of course emails as well, and go into the app and drop it in submissions too. Ronnie says, hi Peter, regarding your golf day, when your winner will play against Tam and Ruffy and Macca, you're more than welcome to come to our club at Girvan. We will look after you with lunch or dinner and a beer or two. That's all right.
You can't say no to that, but obviously it's an overnight as well. Girvan.
Girvan's an overnight.
I've never played Girvan.
What?
That's a golf course I've never played. If it's called Girvan, I've never played Girvan golf course.
No. Well, to be fair, that was nice of Ronnie. What a nice gesture, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. We don't have Ronnie's address or anything, but I'm sure he'll drop us an email with the number and everything, Ruffy, and that might be part of the prize next week.
That'd be great. Super. I would go anyway for a game of golf. So
you any good at golf?
Nice. Not really.
No, that's fine.
I used to play 2 rounds a day every day during the school holidays.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was all right, but I was a club thrower, so I just decided to pack it in. Right,
okay, I actually can appreciate that, by the way. I thought you were pausing there thinking, now, what's Girvan like? Should I say I'm a golfer? Anyway, thank you, Ronnie, that was a lovely gesture. The quiz today, I think, with regards to managers getting the sack in the English Premier League, only 8 started the season and remain in charge of an English Premier League club. So we thought we'd pick one of the clubs that's notorious for sacking managers. That is, of course, Chelsea. How many permanent managers have Chelsea had since the year 2000? Do you want to have a go?
14.
Ruffy?
I'll go 21.
21 managers?
Yeah. Well, they go three a year.
Right, okay. Give us your thoughts on it. What do you think? How many managers since the year 2000 permanent at Chelsea? Okay, lots to talk about. Of course, the weekend's games threw up all sorts of VAR decisions that some have angered you, certainly angered more than a few of the managers again. But as the managers speak out, Ian Maxwell says that VAR is a technology that's working fine. Yes, there are teething problems here and there, but that's what he says is the norm right across Europe, Ruffy. Yeah,
I think Ian said right at the very beginning it was going to be quite a wee while before we got everything sorted out. You know, he was hoping it was going to be shorter rather than longer, but as we've obviously seen this year, the one particular rule is the handball rule, that there's no consistency whatsoever, and I think it was very noticeable at the weekend now that the referees are getting so much stick about the inconsistency. I think they've just battened down and said, if it hits your arm, it's a penalty. Doesn't matter where it is, if your arm's outstretched or whatever, if that ball touches your arm, it's a penalty.
That consistency is the problem with it. Some say it's a handball, some don't sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I think VAR is positive in a lot of senses. If it misses an incident, at least it gives the referee the chance to review certain incidents, but it is still open to an individual referee's interpretation, and I think that's where you get the grey areas, where you get the inconsistencies. One referee might deem something a deliberate handball in the box, whereas another might not. So I think that's a big issue for them, really. And I don't think you might ever solve the problem with inconsistencies. It's people's interpretations.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, I think one of the things that Ian Maxwell is keen to point out is, you know, we're 6 months into it. You know, calm down, everybody. There are lots of people, you know, across all the countries having issues with it. Teething problems always going to be part of the implementation, and of course, people's acceptance of it.
Yeah, I think it's just the inconsistency. I mean, we all look at it on a Monday and we go, what was the difference between the Ross County handball and the Considine handball at Kilmarnock? You know, and you look at both of them and common sense would tell you the Andrew Considine was a stonewall handball, and why has VAR not picked it up? You know, I'd love somebody to give us an explanation on that one. I mean, the one at Ross County on Saturday, I don't think anybody saw it. You know, initially, you know, until VAR said we've saw it.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing about it. That is, a good point. That's what we want. We want these kind of decisions, you know, being correct, and that one was correct.
Yeah, well, Les says it was definitely a penalty at Dingwall. The defender had his arm out to hold Cameron Carter-Vickers, not to jump up for the header. It's a penalty. I must admit, I didn't see it that way. I saw him going up. People, defenders go up. It hits his arm. In the letter of the law, I know people are turning around and saying, well, wait a minute. Right now, that's a penalty. All I was saying was, really, is that what we're giving penalties for?
Yeah, well, I think that feeds into Lee Johnson's comments after the Celtic game, in the sense that if that is a penalty, then you would see 3-4 penalties every game. For defenders manhandling or slight tugs in the jersey inside the box at set pieces. The occasional break of a ball or a handball. Again, this all feeds back to the inconsistency of a referee's decision as well.
Well, that's what Ian Maxwell's saying. He says it's down to the subjectivity of refs' decisions, which is annoying people. Yeah,
well, that's true. But then you might get differences of opinion between referees, but it becomes even more annoying if you've got a referee, the same referee, that's inconsistently applying the same rule.
Yeah,
if you like.
Well, exactly. And if that happens on Saturday, we'll all hear about it, of course, because it's the big one on Saturday. It's a huge month for Rangers because not only have they got Celtic in the league, but at the end of the month it's Celtic at Hampden in the Scottish Cup semi-final. How do you think it's going to go? Give us your thoughts. We're going to talk Rangers shortly. Let's not forget, as far as Rangers are concerned, looking back on a famous title win back in 1997 is where our competition prize lies. It's another magnificent competition courtesy of PLZ Soccer. This is your chance to win this fantastic framed and signed print of Brian Laudrup scoring for Rangers in that unforgettable game up at Tannadice. That goal secured Rangers 9 in a row, and for your chance to win, all you have to do is make sure you subscribe to PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel and answer this simple question: from which club did Rangers sign Brian Laudrup? If you know the answer, pop it in the comment section below and make sure you subscribe to PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Good luck. Well, he's etched himself in the history books, Brian Laudrup, with that goal. I always, see him now and I still think he can play. He looks absolutely sensational. Whatever they're putting in the Danish water, I'd like a full bottle of it.
Yeah, no, he still looks in great shape, Brian Laudrup. And he was ultimate professional when he was at the club, anyway.
Were you amazed by him in training?
Oh yeah, I mean he had unbelievable talent. The good thing about in training was the pitches are smaller, so he didn't have as much space to run into. But no, he had great feet to get past players and that little bit of burst of explosions, acceleration to make a difference. And he was a special player, no doubts.
Yeah, I mean, are there, I don't know about this. I'll ask Ruffy this as well. Are there players that you've played with that some people maybe look on, they're a little bit starstruck by them, or you're amazed by them, or you met them and then played with them and thought, God, they're even better than I thought?
Well, I don't know. I mean, Laudrup coming to Rangers had a big reputation, but at the same time, there were other fairly well-known players there, and it was a good mix actually. Brian was a great teammate and a fantastic individual as a man. He was impeccable. Mucked in with all the rest of the squad. Great person, and Archie Knox had a simple tactic. Everybody just win the ball and then give it to Brian. Yeah, and then he can work the magic, and that's it.
It's quite a good tactic. That I don't think you need to go down to Largs to study that course, Ruffy, do you?
No, you don't. You've got somebody. It's the same with Brian Clough, isn't it? And John Robertson. He used to just say, give the ball to the tramp.
Yeah.
And he was the outlet, and a lot of teams have that outlet, and it's good if you've got somebody like that. I keep harping back to when James McFadden was playing, he was our outlet, for many years. He just played up there himself, but you just found him in the halfway line, and he would go by people for fun, and 9 times out of 10 scored a terrific goal for Scotland in particular. But I mean, lots of players. Joe Jordan for me was much better than what people thought.
Yeah.
What a presence he had, balls into the box. He just had that presence about him that he was going to go on the end of it.
Yeah, you always seem to get on well with people from Lanarkshire, Ruffy. It's just something about
Cleland, was it Joe Cleland?
Yeah, absolutely. Just up
the road, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul Brady says, Laudrup, I absolutely hated him, Peter. He was one of those Rangers players who was actually outstanding. I think he's one of those players, especially at that time, I remember he was one of those players that when he got the ball, the whole play, you could hear a buzz in the stadium. You could feel the energy from fans thinking something's on here.
Yeah, because he had, some players can play strong on the right side, the left side. He could beat people either side.
Yeah.
He could shoot, he could score on his own, but he had a good vision to set up other players and create assists for other players. So there was a lot to his game. So whenever he got the ball in the final third, there was expectation. He could score, he could create, he could beat people left, right. He certainly was a special player.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved watching him, Ruffy. He was one of those guys.
We had the debate one day on the show, him or his brother.
No, I'm afraid I'm going to just take issue here because it's Michael all day long.
Well, I think I didn't see much of Michael Laudrup, but I would base it on the fact that arguably he's played at bigger clubs. So.
Yes. Brian, sensational player. I mean, honestly, if it's not the fact that you're splitting hairs, but Michael Laudrup was part of Johan Cruyff's dream team and then caused that utter sensation of suddenly going and winning the league with Real Madrid. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was just magnificent.
And he played at Juventus as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he was a brilliant player. I mean, he was just magnificent. But can you imagine having 2 world-class players in your family, Ruffy?
Yeah, that doesn't happen very often. But certainly they 2 were well up there. Fantastic players.
Absolutely. As we get to this point, and this is the strange thing about Scottish football, that people obviously, want to look for money. They know that there's a big season ahead coming up in the summer where clubs are going to have to look and have to try and look at their finances so that they can fund their rebuilding. Michael Beale's got a huge job. Rangers have just issued 7 million new shares, looking for another cash boost. This is something that's come out in the press today. So it's over 7 million new shares. They're hoping to raise just under £2 million. So again, it's going back to the well to try and hope that there are enough Rangers investors out there that continue to make sure that the club can sustain this battle. Mm-hmm. Closing that gap on Celtic.
Yeah, I have no doubt there'll be investors out there who'd want to get involved with Rangers. It's a massive, big club. I think when you're talking about the money side, I don't think you're looking to make money, on your investment, because obviously you dilute the shares the more you put out there. But I think anybody who would buy these shares would just want to be part of Rangers. They'd be Rangers through and through, and they'd want to just be, part of the shares in the club. So
I'm not sure just under 2 million will put a dent in anything though, no. Neil, to be perfectly honest with you.
No, not in this day and age. I think if you're looking at players in the past, if you get a player at £1 million, Celtic did it for a spell, didn't they? Like Emilio Ezagir or Berham Kayal. They would buy players for £1 million and turn them and try and make a profit on them. Nowadays, that $1 million, it's 3-4 million, I think, you need to spend to get a player of sufficient quality. Or, like in the case of Nicholas Radkin, that Rangers bought in a free or a cheap player coming out of contract, Kamara or Nicholas. If you buy or get those players at the right time, it makes a difference and you can get them at a cheap price. Otherwise, I think you're spending more than $2 million on a quality addition. Yeah,
it'll be interesting because obviously, they're going to obviously look at once their next financial figures come out, that will include the sale of Joe Aribo and Calvin Bassey. It'll be interesting to see if they were able to increase their record turnover of 86.8 million. But I think again, when you looked at it all broken down, they again lost money. So it's been able to turn that around, and that really involves two major things, Ruffy. It's making sure you're in that group stage of the Champions League, which can put a real dent in any debt that you have. And then, of course, the other thing is satisfying new season ticket holders who are saying, you better make sure, and this is why I think Michael Beale's got a tough job ahead of him, is August, September and October, you better make sure that your new team is neck and neck with Celtic, if not ahead of them.
Yeah, I think Rangers have already started releasing wee bits and bobs to keep the supporters on board. I think the Rangers manager's already announced he's had a meeting with the directors and he has got a budget for next year. That's what supporters want to hear. They really need to try and get the bulk of the supporters who are not happy with the two people behind the scenes, the way they're operating, so they need to rectify that. They need to maybe bring in a good signing or get the boy Tillman. I personally don't think they'll get the boy Tillman. I think they'll get him maybe on loan. I think loan's a better deal. If the boys enjoyed his time here, and maybe go back to his club and say, look, the guy, can we get him for another year? That'll save Rangers £5 million.
Yeah.
You know, and they could spend it somewhere else. And if the boy's happy here, why not stay for another year? He's only young. He's still developing. So I think that would be money that Rangers would try and keep for other departments.
And while I'm looking at the whole situation, and there's never a dull moment with Scottish football, Ruffy, Rangers and the SPFL could be on the brink of another row because they're not happy with the renewal of the sponsorship deal with Glen's Vodka. They've written to the other 11 Premiership clubs saying they feel unable to fill any aspect of the new agreement.
What's the clash there? What's the clash?
You've got me. Whether they're unhappy with the terms of it, the amount of money that's in it, I don't know.
I mean, I got the Shinch one. I got that one because of the car thing.
Yeah.
You know, I think everybody understood there would be some kind of confliction there, but I don't get this one. I thought we were having meetings. Everybody was having meetings, and we were all going to get together for the benefit of the clubs.
Yeah.
You know, and the clubs is not just the Premier League. The club is everything. You know, the 42 clubs get a benefit of any sponsorship money. So, no, I thought the 5 club people who'd got together had sort of sorted that out, that they were all going to channel in the one direction, but obviously it's not the case.
I think the way ahead for Scottish football, and it has to be a sit down at some point, and eventually a legally binding document which takes the power away from individual clubs to scupper deals. I think if they're talking about this summer coming in, the new Scottish marketing group that's going to take over the whole of the umbrella of everybody under Scottish football, you know, they need to rewrite the rules to say we are going to try and get sponsors for the betterment of the whole game, and that money, if we can get more and more sponsors in by the way we market the game, then we'll bring in more money and everybody will get a slice of the pie. But this whole self-interest thing is just a self-destruct button.
Well, it's been that way for as long as anybody can remember, unfortunately, and that even pertains to league reconstruction and number of games and gates and things. So I think, as you say, though, it's trying to get an element of collective responsibility, that everyone buys into the same vision, and then establishing rules that are clear for everybody.
Yeah.
No easy task.
No, definitely not an easy task, but it's the only way ahead, because self-interest is absolutely strangling this country. It really is, Ruffy. I mean, we only have to go back to the COVID years, but I'll look at the whole thing and I think there could be more money. There certainly should be a stronger marketing ploy to enhance what the positive things that we have for our game. But, you know, when you have a situation where individual clubs just constantly, you know...
Well, the biggest part of our game and the biggest selling part of our game is Rangers and Celtic. And if one of the big two don't fancy it, then anybody who's out there trying to get sponsorship is batting their head against a brick wall. Because it's okay going out there and coming back and going, I've got a £5 million deal with this company, and one of them say, no, we don't want it.
Yeah.
So everybody suffers.
Aldo says Doncaster is ruining our game. Neil Doncaster is only really a figurehead who is the voice of the clubs. He is a chief executive who represents the clubs, and the clubs give him the backing. Some might not like him, but the majority of them put him in there, and he represents the clubs. He is the voice of the clubs, Ruffy. So there seems to be a strange obsession to try and get him billeted. But at the end of the day, the clubs must like what he's doing, the majority of them, because he's still there and he's been there quite a long time.
Yeah, and in all fairness, he has attracted a couple of good sponsorships in recent years. It must have been very, very difficult with COVID. But any money brought into the game the way we are should be welcomed by everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think though, if you look at the EFL deal that was announced, or the rent period of exclusivity deal with Sky, and there was a rumour that DAZN as a streaming partner would be interested in those matches. I think people now think, well, are there other providers, streaming providers, platform providers, broadcasters, and maybe over a period of time, when the national team doing well is, there'll be a lift and there'll be more people interested in Scottish football when the prices go up.
Well, that would be great. That's all well and good, but why, if you were a sponsor, why would you come and look at a group who for me, just act it sometimes as if they've all had a pint in a pub and they're desperate to punch each other's lights out?
Well, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to visibility as well, doesn't it? I mean, if Rangers and Celtic, Hibs, Hearts, Aberdeen, whoever qualifies for Europe is doing okay in European group, Hearts qualifying for the European group, if that happens on a consistent basis, then the profile of the country and the football in the country goes up, and hopefully that will pay dividends in the future.
Yeah, I would like to see them take a more socialist outlook to it, Ruffy, which is quite simply to spread the packages to lots of people, to try and get them involved, whether it be commercial television or, as many of them have access to highlights packages at an affordable rate instead of playing one off against the other. We only have to look at the Setanta deal to realise that, you had a good backer in Sky Sports, and then suddenly you go to the others and just blow everybody else out. I think everybody should have access to certain packages. There should be. I like that. I think the DAZN package is going to be the way ahead shortly, where people want the game for a tenner, Ruffy, and they have it on their phone, and there's no subscription. You want to watch the game? Give us a tenner. The SPFL get their cut of it, and then filter it out to all the clubs, and DAZN get their cut. I think that has worked in Italy, and I can see that coming here for games.
I think part of the discussion, or part of the issue, is the 3 p.m. blackout on a Saturday for live matches. So they were discussing abandoning that in England if DAZN was a preferred bidder, if you like. But perhaps that's why DAZN wasn't a preferred bidder, because they want to keep the 3 p.m. Saturday blackout. Who knows? Yeah, well, listen, every rule and every bit of tradition that you have, Ruffy, goes out the window at times, doesn't it?
It's a vote. It's the vote. It's the vote that's wrong. You have to get around a table, everybody, and say, like, if we're going to pass votes, this is what has to go with a majority, rather than one person says no and that's the whole thing scuppered. That can't be right for the game.
Yeah. And of course, Liz says, technically, Peter, that would be state capitalism. Well, I'd rather have some form of state capitalism than the pub brawl that we've got at the moment, Ruffy. I don't know about you, but it's not benefiting anybody, is it?
No, it isn't. I think we were all disappointed with the Scotland game. Everybody wanted to see it that wasn't at that game, and it was well out of the way of thousands and thousands of people, and then somebody throws up the English games on, what was it, ITV3 for nothing.
Yeah.
Things like that.
One thing I would say to counter that, though, is, do you think by not being available readily on television, that's why the stadium's full all the time now?
Where?
Hampden. For the home games, for Scotland games.
Do you know what? The funny thing is, I think if you've got a successful team,
yeah,
then people will go and see it. A lot of people said, "Oh, you're switching the games to Fridays. That'll kill off the attendances." This country's football daft.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And the only problem I have sometimes is, if we signed a bumper deal, let's say we signed a bumper deal with DAZN, right? I give you the classic blueprint is Arsenal. They signed $1 billion deal with China. This was about 4 or 5 years ago. Signed $1 billion deal, and Arsenal upped their season tickets.
Yeah.
Now, honestly, I mean, if you want people to come back, you've got to offer all sorts of incentives. I mean, look at Motherwell, sell David Turnbull and then buy people all their season tickets for the next year. I mean,
well, by all accounts, in the English Premier League, the clubs could let their fans in for free and they would still make a profit.
Absolutely. So if you want to market it and make that real, promote it in such a way that you want to get the stadiums full, you come up with financial incentives. But I do think collectively, if we want to get more than Cinch and more than Glen's vodka, then you've got to all just say, okay, here's the new set of rules. This marketing team do the deal for everybody. Doesn't matter if you own a car company or you own a drinks company or you own a bookies company, tough. This is the deal. Embrace it, get on with it. The fact that you are invested in that club and you happen to own whatever you own is neither here nor there. You've got to look at it for the bigger picture, which is bring in as much money as possible and then promote the game and get the spin-offs from it as well. But right now, I think I still don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. If they're going to argue over this deal, where does it stop, Ruffy?
Yeah, as I said, I mean, I still think we should be thinking about everybody rather than the big two. That everybody needs a buck. Now, the clubs down the bottom, the Premiership, the clubs in the Championship, the First Division, I said they all need money to survive, and most of them will survive. Not survive, but most of them will look forward to that wee payment that comes out, whether it's twice a year. And it's a breath of fresh air, so it'll keep some clubs going. But if we keep losing sponsorship, then it's going to make it harder and harder. Yeah,
and of course, Ian makes a very good point as well. SFA sold a TV deal. Mainstream TV couldn't air the game. It's as simple as that. That's the nature of it. There's lots of hurdles to get over before we eventually somehow get to everybody agreeing, and whether that happens short term or not, I'm not so sure, but it's certainly something that continues to annoy everyone watching from the outside as each deal seems to be scuppered. Just a couple of things I want to talk to you about. With regards to Malik Tillman, whether Rangers have got 5 million to give Bayern Munich or not, I don't know. Allan McGregor, my gut feeling is he'll sign another year's deal, if anything, to stave off the need for Rangers to start looking at 5 or 6 players that they need in positions that they need to hit the ground running.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one. Allan McGregor's a fantastic goalkeeper, as everyone knows, and I'm sure he's got another year or more left in him.
Yeah. He's better than what they have at Ibrox.
I think so, yeah. I think he's the number one goalkeeper. However, if the club's looking for a longer term replacement, then that's something that they need to take a decision on. That's not to say Allan McGregor doesn't sign another contract, just the same as he started this season not number one.
Yeah.
So if it's made clear to people when they sign, you're either number one or you might be, you might not be, and we might look for a new goalkeeper, I think as long as it's clear, then everyone knows where they stand. But definitely, in my eyes, he's done more than enough to warrant another year.
Yeah, and even at 41 for me, Ruffy, I think he's easily in the top 3 goalkeepers in the country. You can argue whether he's 3, 2 or 1.
Yeah, he's a big time goalie. He makes the big time saves. Most goalkeepers make saves day to day, but he makes the big ones. He makes the ones that win you games. The problem we've got is he's already come out and said, I'm not signing another year if I'm not playing. So that gives you a dilemma of, do you say to him, well, it's the same as this year, you're going to play some of the games but not all of the games, and then he's got to make his mind up, well, am I happy with that?
Yeah.
Because
at 41.
Yeah, no, but you want to be playing. You want to be playing. Depends how many sparing. I don't mean he's only going to play in 10 games or 15 games a year. I think he'd want to play more than that. But the problem is, if they don't think the boy McLaughlin is going to be the number one, they're going to they have to go and get somebody. So the problem they've then got is when they get somebody, is he going to be happy sharing it with Allan McGregor?
My biggest problem with the decision, though, is that I think Rangers' hand is forced by the fact, quite simply, Neil, that they need to make 4 or 5 signings that are starters. It doesn't matter that there are some players that the poor recruitment that hasn't, seen these players go into the team right away. A Suter, a Yilmaz, that you were hoping they would, go straight in there. The injuries it's picked up, Hadji and all that. That's irrelevant to fans. They don't cut you any slack with that. They're looking and saying, okay, we're going to give you your season ticket money. You might come out with, as Michael Beale has, this. There's an unlimited budget that I'm happy with. There's no restrictions on it. the proof's in the pudding. Go and buy 5 players that can start in that team and can win the title. That is it in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think, to be fair to them, the last couple of signings they made, Nicholas Radisson and Cantwell, they've made a difference to the team.
Yeah, but again, Raskin hasn't played as much as the Rangers fans would like him to. He's been injured.
That's true. But, you know, when they've played, they've made a difference, and they've freshened the team up somewhat. So, you know, there's evidence recently that, you know, they've maybe made additions that are going to make a dent in the starting lineup when fit.
Yes.
And clearly, you know, the manager himself has mentioned he needs 4 or 5 players to make a difference to the squad next season to freshen up. Morelos quite probably leaving, Kent possibly leaving, other players out of contract. So clearly he needs players that are going to make a difference, and it gives him an opportunity to bring youthful players in with that sort of enthusiasm and legs that can make a difference. Yeah.
Thanks to Gallant, who says Radisson. He meant Raskin. He was thinking of he was thinking of a hotel in Girvan for the golf. But we get your point, Gallant. Listen, Barisic. There's another one.
Yeah.
You know, he says there's no guarantee over his long-term Rangers future as he enters his final year. I think I can tell you what I think I can tell you what it is. It's quite simply, thank you. You've been a good servant. Well, you know, legs have gone. Suspect a wee bit at the back. Time to move and look for someone else.
Yeah, but he has been vocal in the last transfer windows that I might be moving on, and especially when the World Cup was on. You know, he thought he was going to be the main man, you know, there, and he would attract attention. But no, I mean, I think he's been a good servant. I think he's been a very good player. He might be one of these guys who just wants to cash in somewhere else, and I don't think Rangers would have a problem with that, because they've got the other boy who, what did he cost? 5 million?
Yilmaz.
Was it 5 million?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's got it ready made, you know, so I wouldn't be too worried about that.
Yeah. Was he 5 million?
I think so, around about 5 million, 5.5. Yeah.
Okay. Give us your thoughts. How many do you think Rangers need for the new season? It's a big game, really looking forward to it on Saturday. How do you think Rangers are placed for this one?
Do you know, I think it's a bit similar to a lot of the games recently. I think first and foremost you need to defend well. I mean, it's logic obviously, but if you defend well and don't lose goals or don't lose opportunities, then you've got a basis then to play. And then you hope that your forward players turn up, your Cantwells, your Tillmans, your Kents that have been in good form recently, whether it's Cholak, Morelos, being in the box to take a chance. But it's all built on, for me anyway, not conceding and being strong at the back. And then from there on in, you can perhaps take some chances, especially away from home.
Yeah, when you were the way I look at these games, and I always try and look at it, you know, and assess the teams going into it. And we were talking about it off air just before we come on here, basically about the team that you played in, you know, with the likes of a Laudrup, a Hateley, a McCoist. I can remember in that game that you mentioned, I said, have you ever won at Celtic Park? You said, yeah, we won 4-2. And I remember the game because prior to it, there was a big build-up and a big talk, a lot of nonsense talked about Celtic were, you know, really closing the gap, and they looked as if they were finally going into this one as a favourites to take Rangers. I think Mark Hateley scored after 37 seconds, and the rest, as they say, is bish bash bosh, give us the 3 points, thank you and good night. Because man for man, I looked at that side and I thought, who in their right mind would predict Celtic could win at home against that Rangers side that you played in? Because man for man, they were better.
Do you know, I think, to be fair to Celtic, they had good players. You know, I think a strength of Rangers at the time, and a strength of any team's the collective. And Rangers did have a strong group, collectively a really strong group, a really good will to win.
But I thought they had 6 or 7 individuals who could easily win a game on their own.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, I think the difference was in the forward areas. You know, Hateley, you can put the ball in the box, he'll rise, he'll score from across. You know, incredible, difficult to defend against. McCoist, unbelievably difficult to defend against inside the box, a real poacher. You've got a creator, whether that's Mikhailichenko or Brian Laudrup. You know, so I think in the forward areas, at that point, Rangers had better options than Celtic. And again, going back to it, Rangers' foundations, I think, were built on not conceding goals. You had a top-class goalkeeper and you had a strong back four.
Yes.
And a midfield that was really aggressive. So it was a good mix, it was a good team mix. And I think at that point, Celtic didn't have, as you say, maybe that same bit of quality, especially in the final third.
Yeah. And as you analyse that, I'll flip it now, Ruffy, and say the opposite is the case. because I think man for man Celtic are better than Rangers. They've got home advantage, they've got a good defence, the record is there and the stats in the league table. I can't see anything other than a Celtic win. And obviously I've made my own noise up about the fact that when you really need a chance to hear your fans, 7,000 of them, to somehow manage to pull off a result at Celtic Park, these two, tit for tat, bickering with each other.
Yeah, and as Neil knows, it's big players on the day in a big game. I think the things that are going against Rangers, I think the two new signings, as Neil said, have been a breath of fresh air. They're going to walk into a cauldron of 60,000 Celtic supporters and be expected to play. That's going to, I don't know if Neil said it, but most of the Rangers Celtic boys we've had in here have said, when I played my first Celtic Rangers game, it took me 20 minutes to get my breath.
Yeah.
To the pace of the game and everything that was on. Now, that stadium's going to be full of Celtic supporters, and if you're a footballer, you're either going to go one way or the other. You're going to go, wow, I love this, or you're going to go, wow, I've never been here before.
Yeah.
What's expected of me? So I think these things are stacked in Celtic's favour, but I still think, as it's been proved on the day, if you take your chances and things go your way, I don't think Celtic are stonewall certainties to go into that game and win 2 or 3-0. I think Rangers have got far too many good players to make that happen, but they have to turn up on the day, because Celtic will turn up with that crowd behind them. That's all I'm saying. I don't see it as a runaway win.
Ruffy, in the 10 years we've been together, there are times when I could probably count up 3.5 minutes in every show that I'll never get back from you, because you just always highlight the obvious thing about it.
I'm only giving you
to win.
No, not at all. No, that's not what I said. I just said Celtic won't run away with us 3 or 4-0.
I think to be fair, and given recent past performances, Celtic have blown Rangers away at home. 3-0, 4-0, whatever it was. In the first half, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's a mountain to climb after the first half. So I think the lessons need to be learned for Rangers in the sense that defend properly, be sharp, be alert to quick free kicks, quick throws, whatever the case may be, and defend well. And from there on in, you've always got a chance to win.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, there's always the chance, but I think, never more so than the way the two teams are playing. I think it's a sucker punch. It's a boxer's punch that Rangers have got to try and take something from this game. The same as I looked at the game in 93-94, when I looked at Hateley, I looked at McCoist, I looked at Laudrup, and I looked at Celtic, and I thought, who the hell is predicting Celtic to win this game?
I think it's slightly, they're parallels, I suppose, in some ways, in the sense that Kyogo was a very good striker, great movements, a finisher. Maeda, pest value, unbelievable energy, again can pop up with a goal. Abada, Jota, and the final third, they've got goal scorers. Rangers, not so much.
Yeah.
The two strikers for Rangers, yes, goals. But the wide areas, Tillman, yeah, okay, fine. He can score from a 10 position if you like, but from the wide areas, don't score so much, Rangers, and Tillman didn't really turn up the last game. So again, they need players that are, what you could say, finishers in the final third to perform in the day as well.
Yeah. Okay, listen, it's all, give us your prediction.
Difficult for Rangers, I think. If they get away with 1-1, I think it'd be a good result.
Yeah, okay. He's going 1-1.
Too early for me yet.
Too early.
I want to see
another couple of cliches.
I want to see if
how many cliches are you going to put in before the end of the week?
If Hatate and the other boy aren't fit, then Rangers have won a Brucey bonus.
Yeah.
If they two are not fit, it's been very quiet.
Yeah,
it's been very quiet. They usually throw it, or they'll be okay or whatever. They're coming along. They're two big players.
The thing is, though, again, I don't know if Hatate and I don't know who else is unfit, but if Hatate's not fit and they put in O'Reilly, is it really that big a difference? I mean, O'Reilly's got a bit about him that can create, get forward, score a goal, work hard, win the ball back. He's a good player.
Ronnie Porter, Ruffy, as a Rangers fan, he says, after watching Rangers over the past few games, if Rangers play their usual deliberate square passing football between defence and midfielders, then Celtic will win. And by the way, Ronnie writes in regularly as a Rangers fan. That would probably Ronnie would be sitting at his computer absolutely gutted to actually type that out. But I think a lot of Rangers fans are looking at that and thinking.
One thing I would say as well, though, I think it's a good game for Rangers. It's a good test for Rangers because they've not been losing, they've been winning every game.
Yeah.
And sometimes in adversity where they've not been playing well and they've got a result, or I think Michael Beale's first game, you know, they were down against Hibs twice. They got a result. And this is a yardstick, this is a measure. Can you go to Celtic and win?
Yeah.
Because you're going to win the league, you have to go to Celtic and win.
Yeah, well,
so
it's a huge month, isn't it? It's a huge month.
I don't mean the league this year, but you know.
But it's a huge month because the league, if it's done and dusted and Celtic win on Saturday, then 12 points, the game's up. And everybody thinks the game's up at this moment. But then I think there's, and then Aberdeen away at Pittodrie, they've got Celtic, and this is it. This is the defining moment of the season. April is that moment. And it comes at a time when Rangers will be the Rangers fans will be saying, as well as constantly putting up banners to get Stuart Robertson out and Ross Wilson, the Rangers fans will be looking and saying, you want our season ticket money? Show us the intent.
I mean, to be fair, I think Rangers have, since Michael Beale came in, produced some great results. You know, Hearts away, Hibs away.
Yep.
You know, winning their games when they need to win their games. It's been a great run for them. So again, he's shown the qualities as a coach, and he's managed to get a tune out the team. So you can't really complain in that score. I think having a good result at Celtic and obviously the semi-final goes a long way to defining the fans' mood for the following season. You're right.
Definitely.
But yeah, I mean, these games are big tests. But again, you wouldn't want to be in any other place. This is what it's all about, isn't it? Like fighting against your closest rivals.
Yeah, absolutely. Kevin Clancy's the referee.
Who's the VAR?
What's it got to do with you?
Is he keeping it secret, this game?
John Beaton is the... No, he's not. John Beaton's the fourth official. Nick Walsh is on VAR. So, I'll tell you...
My Celtic supporting friends call him Brother Beaton. Would that be right?
Well, this is the other thing about it. I mean, this is the funny thing. I know John, a nicer lad you'd never meet. And honestly, this is the nature of our country. You just get battered if you get association with anybody. I mean, at the end of the day, these boys are doing their best. I don't think the referees as a collective are good enough this season. I think they've been poor. Whether Ian Maxwell comes out and says, you know, they're implementing the rules right, I think the referees and the VAR officials have been poor in this 6 months when we're bedding in with VAR. The refereeing standards, I think, have been poor. And, you know, do I look at a guy... my mind does not work the way some fans work and go, John Beaton, Rangers fan, been in the Rangers pub, all that stuff. You know, it doesn't work that way. I just think the overall standard has not been good.
I think we've got a top 4 or 5, but I think that's it.
Top 4 or 5 refs?
Yeah, you know, the ones that get the big games. They're the ones that's why they get
Kevin
them.
Clancy.
And the one you've just mentioned there, Beaton.
Yeah.
I think he's very good. But I think there is 4 or 5. The rest of them are just very, very young. And that's why they don't get the games, because they've not got enough experience under their belt to handle something like this. So time will tell on them. But I'm sure you could go to every country and say the referee's on the...
I'm not doubting that for a minute. I mean, listen, Rangers only win at Celtic Park. Only man to win there has been Steven Gerrard since 2016. It needs that type of performance.
Yeah, as I say, that's what I said a couple of minutes ago. Is this is the test? This is the yardstick. You need to go to Celtic and win. If you've got any designs in winning the title at any point, you need to be able to go away and win. And that's important for Rangers. And again, you've made the point crystal clear. Steven Gerrard's team went to Celtic Park and won, and they won the title.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, listen, Celtic, can anybody see them losing in the league? If you can, make a case for it, because I'm looking at the stats here that we've all put together. Rangers have won 17% of their away league games. Celtic have won 42% of theirs. Celtic's current 85 points total is the second highest in the history at the 30 game mark, and only the Invincibles of Brendan Rodgers, they had 86 points in their treble winning season, and they ended with 106 points. Now if Postecoglou's side go unbeaten, they'll be on 109 if they win the remaining 8 league games. And of course Ange Postecoglou, looking at his Celtic side, even although I didn't think there were any I don't think there were any great shakes up at Dingwall, but they still won. This is what Ange had to say on it. With 8 games to go, there are 24 points we want to get, and that's our target. It's a remarkable run we've been on because there have been some brilliant sides in Scottish football, but this team has surpassed those teams in terms of starts for a season. But just as pleasing is the level with good, strong performances every week. That's a credit to the group, and that is the key issue here is the relentless nature of them, Ruffy. Even when they're not playing well, somebody pops up with a goal.
Yeah, the only thing I would pick out of that one is I don't think there's been brilliant teams this year, Scottish teams in our league. I think that's what he said there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I was just going to ask you, when Brendan Rodgers did the Invincibles, was there brilliant teams then? Was there better Aberdeen teams? Was there better Hibs teams? Was there better Hearts teams when Brendan won it?
Well, no, because the evidence of that is you'll have to look at them all getting battered out of Europe. I mean, that's the yardstick. There's 2 halves to a season for me. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to work it out. From August to December, Celtic, Rangers, whatever their incarnation is of their manager and the team that they put out, you judge them in that 6 months with what they do in Europe. Can they get to the group stages? If not, then it's a Europa League level that they operate at, and then you work out how far can they get there. The rest of them, all usually out by August. The standard's been poor.
Yeah, it's been a bit disappointing. I think this year, as we discussed earlier on, Hearts been in the group stage. Getting into the group stage was a good thing, you know, and they had some good performances at Tynecastle. Unfortunately, didn't qualify, but at least it's lifting the profile of the country again.
Yeah.
Although
Hearts should have been in the Europa League.
Aye.
I mean, they lost to a mediocre FC Zurich.
Yeah, that's true. But I think in the past, yes, I think Scottish teams have been out too tamely in the qualifiers, the European qualifiers. Although it is set up, it's quite difficult. It's cup football, and you've got to go through 2, 3, 4 rounds, so it's never easy to qualify for the group stages.
Ruffy?
I think it's been poor. I mean, Hearts have been the exception. They've went off the boil a wee bit now, but I think everybody else, the ones you expect, the Hibs, the Aberdeens, and the teams that we should be talking up this year are the Livingstons and the St Mirrens, because they've kicked way above, you know, their weight, you know, and they've been the teams that have surprised me more than anybody else how well they've done.
Just a quick point. I'll mention this because it's a good point he makes. Lackey, and you're right. They have lost to St Mirren, by the way. I'm not saying they're unbeaten, but the run that they're on at the moment, if they win all their 8 games and go unbeaten in the 8 games, they'll get to more points than Brendan Rodgers' side accrued. So no disrespect to St Mirren. St Mirren defeated them.
Yeah.
But they're on this run. It's an unbeaten run.
You know, every team can point to situations in the season where they could have done better. But if you look at maybe a 4-week block, when Rangers lose a game to St Johnstone, they draw with St Mirren, they draw to Livy, they could probably win all those games. If they'd taken chances, they could have probably won those games. The gap would have been 1 point. You know, so you can always, or 2 points, so you can always point to certain things that Rangers could have done better, and it's small margins. And interestingly, as Ruffy just mentioned there, Livingston, St Mirren are the teams that caused Rangers damage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think obviously, you know, managers lose their jobs if the players don't respond to them as well. And certainly on the evidence of that day at St Mirren, I just thought Rangers were lacklustre, predictable, one-paced, and you could see the writing was on the wall for Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's side. I
think that's true, and I think that was downward spiral momentum. I feel like, although if you're a manager, you can look at it and think, okay, he's a young player, but Leon King taking a touch inside the 6-yard box and getting it nipped off him, and you know, losing a goal, it's a cheap goal.
Yeah.
Is the manager's fault? Was that the manager's problem? No.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, I'll beg to differ, because you only have to look at the managers who are getting sacked right now. What happens is the manager pays the penalty for it. Listen, we're just talking there. I noticed that, you know, sometimes when money's rolling in, it tends to roll in even more off you. There's a story going on that Jeremy Frimpong could be on his way. And, you know, they're quoting big money for him. Celtic could get a 30% sell-on from that.
Yeah, Neil will know more than me. That's what it's all about now. If you've got somebody sniffing about one of your younger players, you make sure there's a 20% sell-on or 25%, or if that's where you make your money. You know, it's incredible. But that, I think every club should do that. And be, if they don't put that in contracts, then they're not doing it club service.
Here's my favourite message of the day. I'm going to read this out because sometimes, apart from the tit for tat of Rangers and Celtic fans, this is a good one from David Gemmell. He says, if you take Glasgow, Paisley, Fife and the outer areas of Edinburgh away from Scotland, then Scotland would be a nice wee country. There you are, Ruffy. There's somebody who's just baseball batted everybody. So David's determined to just claim the...
Well, it's fairness, I don't know about that, because Rangers especially, maybe Celtic, get a bit of a time up in Aberdeen, so...
It's a brilliant line, David. I'm not sure too many people agree with you, but it was well worth reading it out. Anyway, I've got to say, well done to Duke. He's been awarded the Player of the Month for March. It's a double for Dons because Barry Robson was the Manager of the Month as well, but he's been a good player for them.
Yeah, he's been very good. The two of them up front have been a handful. Obviously, I don't think he's scored as much goals as the other boy, has he? But he's when you have a partnership like that, you have somebody with a bit of pace.
3 goals in 2 games in March.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. The other boy might be scoring the goals, but he's the one that the defenders will be keeping their eye on because he's the one with the pace. He's the one that's dragging them all over the place, and the other boy's getting the benefit. Well done to him. He's been really good. It's can they hold on to him?
Yeah, you're on about Miofsky.
Yeah.
I think Aberdeen have, suddenly under Barry Robson just started to respond to him, and now a point behind Hearts. Hearts have just collapsed in the last 4 games.
Yeah, well, I think Barry Robson was a young player when I was at Rangers, and we called him Oleg from Oleg Kuznetsov lookalike, but he was always a confident person. Belief in his own ability, and I think if you've got that personality, you can transmit that to the players. He'll have a belief in the way he wants to play, and it's at the heart of management, and I'm pretty sure he's got that bit in him where he can get the best out of the players that he's got. And I've not really, it's not really any surprise that he's doing well at Aberdeen, and he's an Aberdeen local, so I'm sure he feels it for the club and he wants to do the best for the club.
Yeah, I think Derek McKenn's former Aberdeen boss is really complimentary about Barry Robson becoming the Aberdeen manager even longer than the summer.
He's been busting for an opportunity, and he's obviously been doing the 18s for a while now, so he's been given that opportunity. He's done very well. I think from my point of view, looking at Barry and looking at Aberdeen, I think they're a very good team. I think they've got good players. For whatever reason, they weren't really getting that consistency, and Barry's managed to get a bit of consistency over the last period of time.
If he gets third, they'll be hard pushed not to give him it.
Yeah. Obviously, winning games is what it's all about. Again, I think I said I don't know who the contenders are. I don't know who was given interviews. I don't know the calibre of the person that's been given interviews. For all we could be sitting here, and it might be somebody they've decided that they're going to get it, but they can't come because they're at a club and they have to see at the end of the contract. I mean, that might be the case, but if the fans get right behind them and they have the end of the season that you're talking about and they're in Europe, it's a problem for them. Because they've got to get it right this time. They can't make a mess of it again.
Yeah, absolutely. We did mention that if you hit the subscribe button, you will have access to, even if you don't hit the subscribe button, you'll have access to our unique video content. It's absolutely free to watch. We do hope that you enjoy our content. Certainly, I've enjoyed sitting down in a one-to-one with Alex McLeish to talk all things Aberdeen. Gothenburg, 40 years. Big celebrations this year. Alex is going to be talking about that, and we'll hear from him next week. I think it's going to be released on the Wednesday. But I caught up with him also to talk all things Rangers as well.
And I watched some videos and I thought what they were trying to do was walk the ball into the net, the usual brilliant total Dutch football, and get to the byline, cut it back, tap in. I says, no, we've got to play faster, get the ball forward quicker. And I just used one of the things that I've emphasised about Alec Ferguson all my life was assertive tempo passing, and play with tempo, and quick throw-ins, everything quick. And it was kind of just pearls of wisdom that I got for Sir Alex on my journey.
Yeah, Alex McLeish there talking about when he came in after Dick Advocaat and had to cut the budget but play a certain way to try and win that title, and that's really the job yet again in the deja vu that Michael Beale finds himself in.
Yeah, it's a difficult job, and I think it lends itself to someone who's a good man manager. Allan McLeish, a good man manager, but also he had good players. Maybe an overspell from the Advocat years. He still had Advocat style players as well.
Yeah.
Albeit he maybe wanted them to play in a different way. And I think Michael Beale's got good players. You know, it just takes a tweak, as we said, maybe 4 or 5 extra star quality players that are going to be starting 11 players and make a difference. So it's possible to make the transition, and Allan McLeish proved it, that you can change the philosophy or the way a team plays and still be successful at the end of it.
Yeah, in the English Premier League there's a few fixtures tonight, but last night it was Everton 1, Tottenham 1. Harry Kane with the penalty, but I wasn't happy with him with his going down as if he'd been hit with a right hook from Mike Tyson. I didn't like that.
No, we don't like it with players, it's very stupid, particularly when something like that happens, and you would hope that they would clean their act up, because it doesn't. You see kids copy their idols, and he is definitely an idol that they might copy, which I hope they don't.
Yeah, belter of an equaliser though for Everton.
Yeah, it certainly was. I think that he's been there for a long time, so he's sort of Everton through and through.
Oh yeah, you're talking about Keane. I thought you were talking about Sean Dyche. I thought, that is a long time for a manager in that division. Leeds United, Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth against Brighton, Leicester take on Aston Villa, Chelsea against Liverpool. Of course, tomorrow night it's West Ham, Newcastle, and then Manchester United against Brentford. But I think, tonight, if I can sneak myself in front of a telly, I might watch this one. Chelsea against Liverpool, both managers. Well, one's an interim manager in Bruno Saltor, and of course Jurgen Klopp looking ahead to this one.
I'm aware of the fact that I'm sitting here because of the past, not because of what we did this season. So to you already, if this would be my first season, that would be slightly different.
They will be sad as well because they know of the level of human being that Graham is, and they're going to take responsibility as they've done since day one. And he's just expecting, to be next to us and supportive.
Yeah, Chelsea. Who would take that job, Ruffy? I would, if only to fail, because it's a good payoff.
Yeah.
How many managers?
Oh, managers, I think so.
21, didn't you? You said
14.
13. Mourinho twice. You were one out, Neil.
Can we not get double for Mourinho, 2 instead of 1?
No, that is Mourinho twice. 13.
Oh, counting them twice.
Yeah, so we tried to get you there, but you didn't quite get it. Listen, Neil played with a really great player, an absolute genius, and you can win a signed print from this man. It's another magnificent competition courtesy of PLZ Soccer. This is your chance to win this fantastic framed and signed print of Brian Laudrup scoring for Rangers in that unforgettable game up at Tannadice. That goal secured Rangers 9 in a row, and for your chance to win, all you have to do is make sure you subscribe to PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel and answer this simple question: from which club did Rangers sign Brian Laudrup? If you know the answer, pop it in the comments section below, and make sure you subscribe to PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Good luck. Yeah, good luck with that competition. Don't forget, we've got David Martindale, My Story from the Livingston Manager, on our YouTube channel, as well as a number of really good interviews. One, John McMaster, which has been enjoyed by a number of Don's fans. Thank you for the lovely messages about John. His book's out this week as well, if you manage to get a hold of it. And quite a lot of the Gothenburg greats will be getting back together for a couple of big dinners over the course of this year, just to celebrate 40 years of that unbelievable achievement, defeating Real Madrid in the Cup Winners' Cup. And it's great to see that Sir Alex and Archie Knox, and of course Dougie Bell and Teddy Scott, obviously it will be to Teddy Scott's family, but they'll get a UEFA Cup Winners' Cup medal from UEFA, which is a lovely touch.
Yeah, and it's well deserved. They're part of the history and part of the group and the success. I think in this day and age, I noticed like some teams have got 9 subs and a catalogue of people behind the scenes. But back then it wasn't quite like that. But they definitely deserve it. it's merited.
Yeah, absolutely. I think because Sir Alex is there, they maybe just thought to themselves, well, we better hand these 6 out as well. Full marks to them. Anyway, we should applaud them for the nice sentimental touch. Who doesn't like a little bit of sentimentality? Thanks to Ruffy. Thanks to Neil. And Neil will be back with us next week. Join us tomorrow on the programme if you can. We'll be talking more about the football issues of the day. And Tam McManus will be here with us in the studio. So, from Neil, Ruffy and myself, Peter Martin, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and thanks for watching.